Hey, so I wanted to do a short video about doing Tantra with emotions, and yeah, we'll get into it in a minute, just like the practical aspects of actually working with it. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to say that in terms of practice, I think this is one of, if not the practices that will have the deepest impact on your daily life. It can really change how we experience the world around us, and also how we show up, how we're able to be, just like more open, more loving, more present, more with the truth of experience. So it can be really, really powerful, really impactful in that way. So maybe rather than talking more about it, we can just get into sort of like how we'd practice with it. And I think as we go through the stages, I'll kind of talk about the benefits and the impacts of the different parts of it. So when we're doing Tantra with emotions, essentially you want to find an emotion that's like a bit charged for you in some way. So it could be like just something that feels kind of difficult to be with in some way. So that can be like difficult emotions like sadness and stuff like that, but it can also be like really positive emotions. Often it's like that can be a bit shut down in us as well. So just finding something that has some charge to it: anger, sadness, grief, regret, like anything that feels charged is the word, in some way, kind of like a bit intense or a bit sort of like you immediately turn away from it and are aversive to it. So we want to, and once we kind of get a sense of that emotion, what we would do is we'd start with some really calm breathing. So with that, you want to maybe place your hands on your belly and then breathe in through the nose for about 4 seconds or so, nice slow. And as you breathe in, your belly should expand. And as you breathe out, your belly should come back in, if possible. Now, some people, if you're kind of like in the emotion and there's a lot, it can be like hard to really get into that belly breath. It's like, if there's tension in our chest or tension in our bodies, it's like, the breathing can get a bit shallow. And so, the point is not to beat yourself up about that. It's just like moving more towards a calmer breath, towards like a calmer sense of being in the body. And the purpose of this is just that breath, that slow belly breath with a nice slow exhale through the nose, that's essentially the signal that our bodies give and receive at the same time when they're safe. It's like the opposite of panic, where we're like, it's kind of like just that relaxed, safe, and we can't start doing like tantric work until our bodies know that they're safe, basically, because when we're in the panic mode or the retractive mode, it's like the tension, things are just kind of bouncing around, or we're like numbing out, we're frozen, or there's like different, or we're running away to get away, we're freaking out, we're just like in all the different ways, the sort of fight, flight, freeze, fawn, we might just be like trying to fix the situation, yeah, all of that stops us from being able to be present with what's actually in the body, in the experience. So those breaths just like bring us into presence. It's like, yeah, I don't need to be in any of those modes. I don't need to be running away, fixing, numbing in this situation. I can just be present. I can be here with what's here. I can hold it. I'm safe. Yeah, nothing awful is going to happen in this next 5 minutes, 10 minutes that I'm practicing. It's all, yeah, in this container. It's all good. We're making this container safe. So, yeah, that's why we always start with some nice calm breathing, because we want to create that container. Yeah, and then just to sort of like build on that and kind of reassure our minds, it's nice to just, yeah, sort of remind our minds somehow that we are safe. I'll close my notifications. We just want to like remind our minds that we're safe as well. So the first thing is getting our body safe with that breath. And then the next stage is just, like giving our minds a bit of reassurance. And so, I really like the phrase, what's here when there's no problem to solve, which comes from Loch. And it's like, there's a way of engaging with it where it's almost like that's asking a question of like, what's here when there's no problem to solve? It's like, oh, cool, yeah, there's no problem, it's all good. There's also a different way in which we can approach it, which is like the mind is constantly problem solving. It's always trying to, improve, keep us safe. It's active. It's like doing lots of stuff, and there's a way in which we can sort of ask the question to kind of disrupt that and almost stop the mind and just be like, you don't need to do that. But there's another way in which we're sort of like, like the mind's like helping us. It's trying to solve problems because there's things here that are hard for us. And in this way of like approaching this question, what's here when there's no problem to solve, it's almost like we're dropping into the body and being with the thing that is hard to be with. It's like normally, rather than be with the thing that's hard to be with, our mind solves the problem. So let me give you an example of this. It's like, if you're in a situation where you're sad, for example, it's like, rather than being sad, it's like uncomfortable, it's a situation where, you just need to like, you're at work or something, you need to get on with your job, or you're with people who it would be uncomfortable for, or something like that. Rather than be with the sadness, the mind solves the problem by distracting you with something. It solves the problem by like running away into the future, or thinking about how you could have done something better in the past or something like that. And it's almost like that's the problem solving aspect. And then if we ask the question like, what's here if there's no problem to solve, if these things aren't actually problems and we're just with the thing, then you come into the presence, and then you're like with the sadness that's here in this moment. So it's almost kind of like just taking out everything that's going on up here in this sort of mental realm and just sort of going, no, we're not gonna do that right now. We're gonna be here and present and in this moment with what's here. And in order to be able to do this, it does require a certain amount of like spaciousness and awareness of emptiness, the capacity to be able to like see thoughts as thoughts, emotions as emotions, body sensations as body sensations. So it's like, it's almost like if you want to be able to see that, rather than experience being a kind of timeline of events of like, this happened and she said this and then I did this and then This made me feel like this, and then I wanted to do this, and then and it's just like this continuous timeline of things that happens. It's almost like you want a more of a spacious field of that, where it's like, like this emotion is arising here, this body sensation is happening here, this thought is happening here, and it's just sort of like, things kind of bubbling up in your field, in your experience, and so it requires a certain degree of, in order to be able to like work with emotions in a tantric way, it requires a certain capacity to be able to have that access to that emptiness, that that mindfulness of experience. And if you want to practice that, and you like video content, which I imagine you do because you're watching this, I would recommend Michael Taft's guided meditations. He's got absolutely loads of them, and they're great. And it's really good at helping cultivate that like emptiness and that capacity to create space and experience for things to arise in. So once you have that capacity for things to just arise in your experience, it's like at that point then we can kind of go into the body, come into the present moment and be with what's here, just like be in the moment of it without running off into that like timeline of stories and the like mental idea of what's happening. So then essentially what we're trying to do is like with the Tantra is two things. So one is a kind of like purification, metabolization, transformational aspect of it. And then another is more just like building capacity for increasing your comfort zone, essentially building capacity to stay with difficult stuff. And you sort of don't need to decide which one is which. It's like the body just does it for you. But they can feel slightly different, so I'll talk a bit about that. So then we want to essentially kind of like come into the moments. We've done some calm breathing. We've asked the question, what's here when there's no problem to solve, just to sort of like get the mind offline, remind it that we don't, it's all very helpful, it's problem solving, but we don't need that right now. And then we're opening to a sense of like, we're purposefully going into discomfort here in order to increase our amount of comfort. So at that point you want to bring the emotion in. So it could be anything that feels like it's a bit out of your comfort zone, anything that's got a bit of charge for you. Just like bring it into the moment and just take some time to like notice what impact it has on your body. Like, where do you feel it in your body? What's the impact? You can maybe notice if your body has a natural tendency to, for example, run away, to try and fix the problem, to like get fighty and angry, to numb out. Like, that can be part of it as well. It's like, just like catching yourself and like gently coming back. So really like staying with the emotion, noticing whereabouts it's centered in your body. So like, is it a very heartful emotion? Is it something that's like in your guts? Is it kind of like very like arms and sort of expressive? and just staying with that, staying with the calm breathing, and just like allowing yourself to sit in it really. And it's almost like that presence, that degree of just like, yeah, almost like radical presence of really just being willing to stay with the thing, whatever it is, whatever comes up. It's like if you're really connecting in with your body and not going into the problem solving, not going into the fight, flight, freeze, but just like staying, that process in and of itself is transformational. So it might be that as you, for example, if it's sadness, which is often like in the heart, if there's like grief or sadness or something, even if it's very gentle, it might be like as you really connect with the sadness, it might be that something happens, like you get a bit of a heart opening, or you cry a little bit, or there might be something that expresses, in which case like that's essentially the body kind of metabolizing, processing, purifying. Same with anger, it might be like you might get like coursing like energy kind of coming through, radiating out like and that can be, and it might be good with that to like move the body as well sometimes, like if it really feels like the emotions are like expressing and there's that they want to come out, it's like, yeah, a bit of movement just to keep them going can be good. And yeah, that process of processing will essentially mean that emotion that you're carrying inside you will some of it will leave, and you'll be left kind of lighter and freer and more space in your body, more like openness, because otherwise it's like you're carrying that around all the time. And then our bodies aren't very smart with emotions, so if we're carrying around a whole load of like anger, for example, inside our bodies, and then it's like a tiny little bit of anger, something that causes a tiny little bit of anger will come in, and then it activates all the anger. And so we don't have enough like spaciousness inside us to breathe and respond and receive life, whereas if we've processed a lot of anger and we have that spaciousness, it's like something that makes us angry can come in and we can be like, this is making me angry right now, I should, I can listen, I can respond, I can like receive it, be with it. And the same with sadness. It's like if we're carrying around a huge bucket of sadness all the time, and then it's like it only takes a little drop of extra sadness and then we're like, oh. Whereas if we've made some space to process what's in us, it's more just like natural ebb and flow. And so that's the kind of like transformational aspect of it, which is that like when we're with these emotions, when we make space, when we come into presence and stop trying to solve the problem, things might start naturally kind of metabolizing. And then the other part is that sometimes the thing is just that it's just increasing our capacity, our comfort zone of how much discomfort we're willing to sit with. Like some emotions can't be processed, they can't be like purified out, they're just there's an element of like just like things impact us, and that's just how life is. And it's not that we need to like, once we've purified everything then it'll all be perfect. It's more like if we can be in intense situations and just sit with it in this sort of calm state where our body is safe, our mind's not trying to solve the problem, then it's like our capacity to just be with these things is much much more much like larger. We have a larger capacity. That's what I'm trying to say. And again, it's like the spaciousness in the mind is again super helpful with this, but it's also like being able to be in the body with it. So yeah, for example, like a good one for an example of this is it's like fear, because fear, it's sort of it's a bit different to like sadness and anger from the body. It's kind of like, it has a slightly different mechanism, and so we're not really trying to like metabolize it in the same way. But if we can just know that we can sit in fear and be with it, even, you know, just for 5 minutes or something, it's like, then when it comes up in our daily life, rather than just like fear causing immediate panic, it's like we've got a little bit of capacity. Our body knows that we're like, okay, there's fear, and I'm not, you know, I can hold this for a little bit, and just give myself a bit of space to like inquire into what's going on inside, inquire into what's going on outside. Yeah, just like kind of check the situation out a bit, have a bit more space, respond from an open place. Yeah, it's like just creating that a little bit more capacity in us. So yeah, it's almost a sense of, and you want to do a bit of both and experiment and kind of allow these things to sort of play out a bit. So yeah, essentially it's like calm breathing, what's here when there's no problem to solve, and then finding the emotion that feels charged in some way in this present moment that's here, connecting with it in the body, and yeah, staying with it, seeing if something wants to be metabolized, purified, or if it's just a case of like staying really with it in the body for a short amount of time to be able to, yeah, increase that comfort zone around it a bit. Yeah, and just a couple of things to say around that. I think one tip for connecting with emotions in the body is that not having too fixed ideas of what that experience is in the body. It's like from a normal like materialist perspective, it's like we have this idea of what our body is and what it feels like. And in this zone, in this sort of like meditative zone, our bodies are actually pretty different to how people perceive of them. And yeah, so we just want to make a bit more space for things like energies, or like, yeah, imaginal kind of ways of relating to, like a bit more abstract, a bit less, like the material aspect is very much here, and there's another aspect of our bodies that is much more nebulous, much more, in the kind of like spiritual, energetic realm of experience. And the simplest example that I use for this is that when we're nervous, we get butterflies in our tummy, and everyone knows what that means. And yeah, it's like when you feel into it, it's like a very sort of energetic kind of like this, you know why it's called butterflies, because it feels like a sort of energetic sense. And so what we're tuning into, or like allowing to be present as part of this connecting with the emotion in the body, is that energetic aspect. So with butterflies, it's like that sort of feeling in the tummy, and also that more sort of slightly more like metaphorical way. So butterflies is a metaphor, and yeah, it's almost kind of like as we drop into the body, just that sense of like shape, feeling, energy, like a good a good way to get a sense of what I mean here is like closing the eyes and just like doing a breath into the belly, or as deep as it can go. And it's almost like as I do that, it has a sense of, yeah, it's a very kind of like dark black with a little bit of red space that's sort of very soft, almost kind of almost sort of like womb-like inside, and kind of just like very safe and cozy, and just a sense of like, yeah, the breath is, and as it moves, it's like a sort of expanding, yeah, what's it like? It's just like a sort of expanding ball that kind of can grow, and yeah, it just has this very like energetic, metaphorical, abstract sense to it. And you're just sort of like allowing yourself to relate to experience in that way, letting go of the idea that the body needs to be, when you're breathing, it's a diaphragm moving and it's air coming in and down the throat, and whatever the like technical aspects of it are, the sort of fixed mental ways we have of looking at the body, and just being more present with what it feels like to be your body in this moment. Yeah, so it's almost like, depending on what your emotion is, will depend how that manifests. So yeah, like sadness can be, yeah, like heart pain is common, and it's like yeah, that can, you know, become this sort of like abstract feeling around that. Or it can be like in the belly. Yeah, anger can often be like coursing, kind of like, I don't know, like fire or lava going through the veins, or like yeah, different. Fear can be quite sort of like cold and gripping in the body, and just like yeah, giving yourself space to relate in that way. And yeah, it's maybe important to say that like the with the imaginal realm, it's like you can then from there, it's almost like, yeah, from, it's like from this like emptiness, open, spacious awareness, we can come into presence and really like be with experience. And then it's like from really being with experience and presence, you can then go off into the imaginal realm and really like work with some of this stuff, work with some of this content, like really change relationships to stuff, rewire our intuition, do all sorts of cool magic stuff, deepen experience in wild ways. But like with this like the specifically with the Tantra, with the emotions, it's more about just staying present with what's here. So yeah, to illustrate this, I guess, like with the butterflies example, because that's very simple and relatable. It's like if you're nervous and you have butterflies, it's like you just want to sit with the body sensation, and that sort of like slightly imaginal, energetic kind of way of relating helps you stay with it. So it's almost like the imaginal is a support to helping you be present with the physical feeling of it. If you're working with the imaginal, you could, you know, go into all sorts of stuff about like what are the butterflies doing there, like what would happen if the butterflies were freed, like you know, you can just be fun and playful with it, and it can be really powerfully transformational. But yeah, we're not sort of like going down that road in this setting. In this setting, we're just like really staying with the body, and just like, yeah, things do naturally shift and change and move. So that kind of like capacity to process, to purify, is naturally built in our bodies. So it's like as we become present with the emotions, they may start to transform, and then we want to like we want to sort of track that and check in with it and be like, so it started out as butterflies in the tummy, like what does it feel like now? Oh, now it feels like fluttering in the heart, or now it feels like a bit of like fear in the temples, or kind of like things can move, and we want to kind of like stay with that and keep re-relating and keep checking in, and allowing ourselves to use the metaphor and the energy and like physical kind of somatic experiencing to be with it. And we're not sort of like consciously trying to change anything. We're just, the goal is to just be present. So that's kind of like the first stage. That's the like really, that's the like meditation practice stage, the Tantra bit. So it's, and just to summarize once more, it's the calm breathing, so the body is safe. What's here when there's no problem to solve, so stopping the mind going into the sort of fight, flight, freeze habit pathways, and then being with the body, building a sense of comfort with that discomfort, just like staying with stuff. And some of the purpose of this, some of the things that it overcomes as we build that sense of comfort is, and I've touched on this already a little bit, but essentially there's 3 things that will reduce in your life if you do this practice. And the first one is numbing. So if we have too much, and if we don't trust that we have the capacity to be with the things in life that are in our bodies, in our emotions, in our experience, then we shut it down. So we numb, we dissociate. We go up into the mind and we think of all that, and our body just shuts down. It can't be with it anymore. So as we start like building a bit of capacity to just like be more in, it's like you're just like reclaiming a little bit of ground, reclaiming a little bit of like, like this is how it feels to be in the body. So that's the first impact that it has. The second impact is that it reduces projection. And so what happens when we have things in our body that we're not able to be with is that it's like the thing still comes at us. So like this is a bit of it's something that when it impacts me, it's going to make me sad. It's like coming towards me. And it's like, if I'm open and I'm spacious and I've got lots of room and I know I can be with sadness, it's like, boom, it comes in and I'm like, I feel a bit sad right now. If we're like, we already have like this huge bucket of sadness we haven't processed, or we're like not allowed, maybe we don't have that, we're not allowed to be sad, or like whatever reason we haven't got the space in us, it's not allowed in. The thing that's coming towards us, it's going to make us sad, and rather than, because it can't come in, it's like we redirect it, comes up here and out there, and we go, whoop, and our mind converts it and it goes, that thing's bad. Or it goes, or it sort of like hits a mirror in us and we're like, why are you so sad about that? It's like the part of us, it's like we can't receive and claim and feel that thing. And so we just, it's almost like, it gets, the mind does a clever trick so that it doesn't have to deal with it, basically. It puts it back out into the world. It can't allow it in, so it finds a way to convert it. So that's a sort of simple way of how projections are created. And then the last thing it can do is that it just hits some armor and just immediately bounces off. So it's like the thing is coming towards us and we just have like a firm bit of armor where like no sadness is coming in here, and it's like bomb. And with that, it's very much just like it can be, we just become reactive. That's like your fight, flight, freeze fawn. It's like hits this and immediately you're just like ready to fight. You're like this, you're just like tense. It's like something sad is happening and I'm just like gonna run away immediately, or I'm gonna like fight this thing and make it disappear, or I'm just gonna freeze up. And so you're kind of it's like just a reactive, an instant reactive mode, and there's no sort of like no capacity, no control, no space around it. It's just like bum, 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 and then your reaction causes a reaction in the next person, the next person, the next person, and it's just dominoes falling over. Whereas, if we're not numbing, if we're not converting the thing into projections, if we're not just like reacting, and the thing can like come in and we can receive it, we can feel the impact of it, we can have some spaciousness, it can be with us, we know we can stay with it, even if it's just for a few minutes, a few seconds, that can be enough to really, like create a bit of space in a situation. Then, we have much more, there's just much more capacity for like peace, love, acceptance, calmness, like clarity, good action, like all the kind of all the good things that in life. And so that moves us on nicely to the second phase. So the first phase is the practice, and with that I'd recommend even just doing like 5 minutes. 5 minutes, find something that's charged and just stay with it for 5 minutes, and that will you did that every day with something that's charged, that would transform your experience very quickly. So then once you've done the practice, there is also the acceptance that it's like acceptance of emotions includes the acceptance that emotions are there to tell us something. So we don't have to just meditate on them, we can also act on them. And it's also like that can create even more space, because when you're doing the practice, if you're putting yourself under loads of pressure that you have to just accept things as they are, it's like that can make us feel more unsafe, because we're like stuck with this emotion that can feel pretty bad and be a sign that things are a bit fucked up in some way. So it's like we want to be, the purpose for doing this is to be able to listen to these signals as well. And so knowing that after you've done the practice, you're going to take some time to think about whether you want to act on them, helps the emotions feel more welcomed, gives you more calm, because you're like, I'll deal with this. I'm focusing on the practice. Afterwards, I will deal with the implications. So now we're doing the bit where we deal with the implications. And with this, essentially, it's like, again, you want to stay with the bit that can see thoughts as thoughts, emotions as emotions, and kind of like, re-engage the mind, but from that place where you can, and now you've like now you've created a bit more comfort in the body and capacity to feel the emotion. It's like you can come back with your mind and be like, okay, so this is what I'm feeling, a really good way to start with this is to write it down, because that gets it out of your head, and it sort of objectifies it. It's something that you can look at. It's not something you're like caught in. It's something that you can look at and reflect on. So it's like, if it's, and whatever it is, sadness, anger, joy, fear, whatever the emotion is, you can just write it down, and and just in that phase, it's like, okay, so this is what's going on. Like, I've sat with it for a while, I've got out the stories, I've like calmed myself down, I've sat with it for a while, and this is what's there. And it's almost like, just giving yourself that sense of validation that that's okay, whatever that is, that's okay. It doesn't say something bad about you, it's what's there. A really nice step that can help with this is sharing it with someone. So it wants to be the right person, because you don't want to go with someone with this sort of practice, with this sort of like tantric approach. You don't want to go to someone and say, oh, I'm feeling like this, and them to start solving your problems and giving you loads of advice. Because that's sort of like the opposite of what we're trying to do here. You want someone who can just sort of like receive you, be spacious with you, say like, oh, I'm sorry you're feeling like that, or oh, it's nice that you feel like that, or has a bit of spaciousness in them to just like be with your emotions. Just like sharing it with someone, saying, and again, someone who you don't want to go to someone who feels unsafe, because that he might not accept it, because again, that can be counterproductive. It's like you want to share it with someone who it's like safe to accept these things, that's going to help cultivate more of that comfort in the discomfort for you. Just sort of sharing with it, because that can just be deeply validating. Because one of the reasons that we shut down emotions and don't connect with them in the body and don't connect with them in experiences, because we feel like they're bad, or we feel like we're going to get cut off from the tribe if we feel them, or things like that. So just having someone else sort of like accept it and validate it and say like, like totally, I feel like that too, or I'm sorry you feel like that, I can understand, kind of thing, is just gives the like social aspect of us a whole load of stuff we don't have to worry about. It just like relaxes, and we're just like, oh cool, okay, it's fine. It's not it's like acceptable to feel like this. So if you have someone like that you can share it with, that can be a helpful step. And then from there, it's almost like it might be that you just want to like keep track of the emotion over the coming days. So if there's like, a situation at work that's like really stressful for you, and it's causing it's causing stress, or it's causing anger, or it's causing whatever like emotion it's causing in you, it's like you might want to kind of like do this practice a bit, and then just for set yourself a time to just track the emotion and just notice when it comes up, notice what causes it, notice like who's there, or like, and just really just sort of like be aware of it and keep track of it, and kind of like maybe note it down, maybe just sort of like find a way to reflect on it. And this can make sure that we're not taking like one situation and applying it and making it like, when we're under stress sometimes and have these big emotions, it's like something that our mind can do is it can go, everything's really bad right now, and it's going to be bad forever, and it's always been bad, and it's this is just how it is. And so just sort of like consciously choosing to give yourself a time frame within which to track a thing can give you a better perspective. And sometimes things are worse than what we thought, and sometimes things are better. It's not to like get perspective in a way that's going to fix it. It's to get a true perspective on what the situation is. And yeah, so just giving yourself some time can be the thing that is needed. And also, like, if it feels possible, maybe just like experimenting a little bit in that time. Yeah. And which sort of ties into the next bit. So, yeah, one thing, you might need to give it time, have some perspective. The other thing is that you might need to act on the thing. So this might happen after you've given it some time, or it might be like immediately once you've stayed with the emotion, it's clear to you that it's like, something about this needs to change. I need to do something about this. I need to have the difficult conversation, or I need to tell this person this thing, or I need to change the way I treat myself, or I need to do something different in my life. And with this, it's just, again, it's about like making the space around it. So it's not, it's kind of just from this place of safety, almost like, think about different options you have, think things through, like look at it from a few different perspectives. And the important thing is not to, it's kind of like, there's a really great phrase, negotiating with your feelings, from the book Having Difficult Conversations, which I love. And with the negotiation process, it's like you're not trying to convince your feelings that they're something different to what they are. That's like manipulating your feelings. But with negotiating with your feelings, it's like, you're just sort of like having a conversation about like, so you feel like this, like that must be hard. You know, what would you need right now? What could we do to help you? How could we change this situation so that it could be different, so it was more supportive for you? What would make you feel better? But is that a little bit over the top? Like, you're kind of just like having a sort of like adult conversation with the feeling in a way where you're not manipulating it or like undermining or invalidating it, but you're also not just like treating it like a spoiled child that gets whatever it wants and like going out and being like, well, I'm sad, so everyone needs to fix this for me. It's like having just a spacious negotiation around kind of like what's going on here, what's needed, what would be helpful. And there's like space to do that. So again, like writing things down is really good for this. Just like, I feel like this is an option, blah 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 blah. Or talking it through with someone who is calm and spacious and has the capacity to sort of like engage in this way. So I think that's probably everything that I wanted to cover. Hopefully that's helpful. I feel like I sometimes just like babble through a bunch of stuff, but hopefully it like makes some sense, is helpful. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Like I say, I think if you spend 5 minutes a day, or even like, 10 minutes every weekend doing this practice at the start, and just like consciously approaching emotions in this way after you've done the practice, it can have a really, really powerful impact on yourself and also on other people around you in your life. It's really powerful, so very much recommend it. And I hope it's impactful. I hope you enjoy, and see you soon. Bye.